right, well, good morning, everybody. My name is Chrissy Nizer. I'm the administrator of the Maryland Department of Transportation Motor Vehicle Administration and Governor Hogan's Highway Safety Representative. I want to thank you for joining us today to talk about a critical issue heading into the long holiday weekend, impaired driving, which includes both drunk and drug driving. Before we get started today, I just want to say, along with all Marylanders, our thoughts and prayers with the sergeant in Baltimore City, his colleagues and his family, and our hopes for a speedy recovery. It just again reminds us of what a critical role our law enforcement plays in the danger they put themselves in every day. Recently, a road safety attitudes and behavior survey was conducted on behalf of MDOT Highway Safety Office, and it revealed some shocking revelations. When Maryland drivers were asked about the reason for not driving impaired, 86% reported fear of harm to themselves, and 79% reported fear of harming others as the top reasons for not driving impaired. But more than 3% of those surveys admitted to driving impaired in the last 30 days. While 3% might seem like a small number, the 4.3 million licensed drivers in Maryland, 3% actually adds up to nearly 130,000 impaired drivers on our roadways in just the last 30 days. And those are the people who admitted to driving impaired. While we know impaired driving is 100% preventable, over the past 5 years in Maryland, nearly 800 people have been killed in crashes involving impaired drivers. We cannot tolerate these poor and selfish decisions anymore, especially when they affect so many innocent lives. Those impaired drivers have hurt moms and dads, brothers and sisters, siblings and friends, members of the community because of their selfish choice to drive impaired. And it is a choice. Making the wrong choice to drink and drive can quickly become deadly, and putting a halting stop on the weekend's activities. While we're doing our part to educate Maryland drivers about the dangers of impaired driving, we're also working hand in hand with law enforcement to ensure if motorists decide to drive impaired, they're removed from the highway before they kill or injure anyone. That's why at MDOT Highway Safety Office, we're providing overtime funding for 36 agencies throughout the state, as well as all Maryland State Police barracks, as well as the Maryland Transportation Authority, to provide additional impaired driving enforcement over this holiday weekend. We're thankful for our law enforcement partners and all partners who continue to help us in preventing impaired driving and saving lives. I'd now like to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Roland Butler, who's Chief of the Field Operations Bureau for the Maryland State Police. We're really proud of the 9-year partnership we now have with the Maryland State Police and the Maryland Department of Transportation to target law enforcement and in programs related to impaired driving. That program is known as the Maryland State Police Impaired Driving Reduction Effort, or SPIDER. The SPIDER team has worked tirelessly to save lives since its inception. We're really grateful to all the troopers who provided that great work. Please welcome Lieutenant Colonel Roland Butler.
Thank you, Ms. Nizer. It's my honor to represent Colonel Jerry Jones and the men and women of the Maryland State Police. Together with our public safety partners, we stand here today to reinforce the dangers of impaired driving, especially at this time of year. This Independence Day weekend, we plan to see fireworks. We plan to see friends and family. We plan to celebrate together. So why not plan that sober ride home? There are no excuses for the tragedies that occur on our highways due to drunk or drug drivers. Yet according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, every day 32 people in the United States are killed in a drinking and driving related crash. The Maryland State Police, along with our partners, are stepping up enforcement efforts to get impaired drivers off our roadways this Independence Day weekend. You will see an increased presence statewide. You will also see the Maryland State Police SPIDER team, a specialized group of state troopers who focus solely on removing impaired drivers from our roadways. You may even see the MDOT truck, the mobile breath alcohol testing truck. It's a resource that we make available to all law enforcement agencies across the state, and is used to process impaired drivers at the scene of DUI checkpoints, special enforcement initiatives, as well as traffic stops. The SPIDER team and the MDOT truck focus on specifically targeted areas where the need for DUI enforcement is the greatest. I would also like to thank the Maryland Department of Transportation's Highway Safety Office for funding these innovative programs that have undoubtedly enhanced our efforts in reducing the number of impaired drivers who repeatedly endanger the lives of our citizens on our roadways. For example, since their inception in 2013, the Maryland State Police Spider Team has removed almost 4,000 DUIs drivers off the roadway. That's an average of almost 450 arrests per trooper per year just from this specialized group of troopers. Hopefully, many of you already made the commitment to avoid impaired driving. As law enforcement, we would like this practice to become as natural as securing your seatbelt before you pull away. Unfortunately, there are still far too many people that choose to ignore this message. As we implement saturation patrols, high visibility enforcement campaigns, our goal is to reach those individuals before they get the chance to get behind the wheel. No one should die because someone decided to drink and drive. Impaired driving affects everyone, not just the drunk driver. From court costs or suspended licensings to causing injuries and death, there's no good outcome for driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. We're committed to removing what are undoubtedly some of the most dangerous drivers on our highways. I'd like to recognize those who've become advocates supporting the victims of this violent crime. The profound contributions of Mothers Against Drunk Driving, or MAD, has helped many people cope with the loss of a loved one. Thank you for your around-the-clock support and your day in and day out dedication to getting the message out. And to our partners at the Maryland Department of Transportation Motor Vehicle Administration, thank you for your continued support of law enforcement, providing us with the tools to continue the crusade to end these devastating tragedies. It is critical that we continue to increase the awareness of consequences of impaired driving. Think about how your life would change with a DUI arrest or worse, causing someone a disabling injury or even death. What would it mean for you? What would it mean for your family? What about your future? On behalf of the troopers working at our 23 barracks across this state this holiday weekend, please have a safe and enjoyable Independence Day weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Butler. We really appreciate what you, as well as the troopers who are here today and all of our law enforcement statewide, do every day to keep us safe. You know, I talked about the statistics, Lieutenant Colonel Butler talked about the consequences, and each year we invite a speaker who's been directly impacted to talk about the effect that impaired driving has had on their life. Because numbers alone don't tell the story, it really is those personal stories of the consequences and the aftermath of that crash. Whether it's loss of life or life-altering injuries of a child, a parent, a spouse, a niece or nephew or sibling, it all shows that the impact of impaired driving is very real and lasts for years to come. Our next speaker has agreed to tell her story about how the preventable action can forever change people's lives. We're so grateful. We know it's not an easy thing to do, but we also know that it changes behavior, and we're thankful for that. Please help me welcome Kim Sizemore.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to share my family's story on how impaired driving affected us. While the story I'm about to tell you is not about the loss of a family member, we have suffered an incredible loss. For my son Bennett and me, we lost the freedom to live our lives as we knew it due to the selfish choice of an impaired driver. While I'm fortunate enough to say my son is still with us, on May 12, 2020, I thought I had lost him. As the doctors put it, I should have lost him due to the severity of his injuries and the accident. Bennett was a 27-year-old thriving in his career as an electrician. He had brought a waterfront home and a boat he wanted to enjoy the summer on. He has plans to have a family and raise children of his own, coach their sports teams, and enjoy a normal life. On May 12, 2020, someone took those future plans away from him. Bennett was off that day to attend the funeral of his grandmother. He went home, changed his clothes, and went to a nearby boat store. He left the store around 2:30 in the afternoon and was driving northbound on Fort Smallwood Road in a small Dodge Stratus. At that same time, a man driving southbound in a Dodge Ram truck with a blood alcohol content 4 times the legal limit, still actively drinking, crossed the middle lane. Bennett was hit head on, changing our lives forever. Bennett was transported to University of Maryland Shock Trauma Center in Baltimore for severe life-altering permanent injuries to his right ankle and wrist. The injuries Bennett suffered have caused him to lose his job and his career due to the inabilities to climb a ladder, fully bend his hand, and difficulty walking. He can no longer continue the career that he spent years building on or fully enjoy the lifestyle that he worked so hard for. The ongoing financial implications, medical bills, loss of wages, inability to work are devastating for Bennett and are still ongoing to this day. Following the crash, Bennett's life was forever changed because someone else made the choice to commit a crime. Todd Beaker took that freedom and independence away from my son Bennett. During the crash investigation, it was found that Todd Beaker had a full and empty Budweiser beer in his car along with a bottle of smeared off vodka. At 2:30 in the afternoon, Todd Beaker was completely inebriated. This was Todd Beaker's 8th DUI arrest over multiple states. Work is being done to improve reciprocity between states to ensure drivers like Todd Beaker are immediately removed from our streets. In April of 2021, thanks to the hard and dedicated work of Assistant State's Attorney Carolyn Gramis and Assistant Director of Victim Witness Services Casey Hall, Todd Beaker is serving 2 consecutive 10-year sentences for impaired driving convictions. I can now breathe easier knowing that he is officially off our roads. While waiting for the trial for the DUI charges resulting from Bennett's crash, 53 days later, on July 4th, 2020, Todd Beaker was involved in another impaired driving crash in Calvert County. By collaborating with other states' attorneys and jurisdictions where the prior conviction occurred, Carolyn Gramis ensured the fullest extent of the law was applied to Todd Beaker's case. I'm Bennett's mom, and I'm also an MDOT employee, which means I'm fortunate to see firsthand how our state is working toward eliminating impaired driving. The sentencing of Todd Beaker was the first time a defendant has received the maximum sentence of 10 years in Anne Arundel County under the updated DUI statute. In 2019, Governor Hogan signed our law into House Bill 707, which increased the penalty for drunk drivers with more than 3 prior convictions from 3 to 10 years in prison. We must never forget the completely innocent victims and family members and remember that the effect of impaired driving does not end for any of us when the impaired driver is brought to justice, and it happens at any time of day. My hope in sharing my family's story is that we can persuade our family, friends, and neighbors to think twice before drinking and driving, and to report impaired driving behavior to authorities before a tragedy occurs. Luckily, Bennett and my family have been able to continue after our tragedy. Bennett got married in April of 2021, and in January of 2022, he underwent a successful complete ankle replacement. On the day of Bennett's crash, someone saw Todd Beaker stumble into the liquor store and allowed him to return to his driver's seat. Please, if you see someone attempting to drive impaired or being overserved, step up and stop those involved. Impaired driving, unfortunately, happens throughout the day, not just at night. Please always be on the lookout, and thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. It does make a difference, and hearing about the experience you and Bennett went through, I know it will help change behavior going forward and prevent other families from having to suffer what you've been. As Kim just articulated, each and every one of us has a role to play in stopping needless deaths from drunk and drug driving. Before you go out this weekend, make a plan. Make sure you have a safe and sober ride home. More importantly, stick to that plan and never let anybody drive impaired under drugs or alcohol. It's a personal responsibility each and every time you get behind the wheel to keep others safe by not driving impaired. I want to thank our Spider team again, as well as all of our law enforcement agencies throughout the state for helping to save lives. I want to thank Mothers Against Drunk Driving, who are a wonderful partner who put a face to these tragedies and help us as we're moving forward to eliminate them. I want everybody to do their part this holiday weekend. We want folks to enjoy the holiday with friends and family, but we ask that you do so safely. In addition to making sure that you have that safe and sober ride home, I'd also ask that if you see our law enforcement, if you see our emergency personnel on the side of the road, please move over as it's safe to do so and allow them to conduct their job. They're there keeping us safe every day. Everyone have a safe and happy 4th of July. Remember, buckle up every time. Together we can reach 0 fatalities. Thank you very much.